Hello and welcome to the Spotlight Games podcast. Today we're going to be talking about a bunch of upcoming video game adaptations. BioShock at Netflix, Days Gone with the guy from Outlander, Gravity Rush with no details at all, really. And we're going to bring you the rest of this week's gaming news, and we're discussing the burning topic in video games right now, the best games on the Nintendo GameCube. I'm your host, Patrick. Joining me as always is my sweet dumpster boy, Kamen Darty, on this episode 48 of the Spotlight Games podcast. Kamen, we've barely spoken today. I don't know anything about your life right now other than you just ate dinner. My first question is, what was for dinner?
My dinner was air fried chicken nuggets.
Ooh, were they dinosaur shaped?
No, I just ran out of the dinosaur shaped ones, so I had to go to the normal ones.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know what it is about dinosaur shaped chicken nuggets, but they just taste better.
Well, does it taste better because it feels like you're eating your family?
Maybe so. Also, are you calling me old?
I'm just calling you a dinosaur. I think dinosaurs don't have to be old. I think let's try to break the stigma that dinosaurs have to be old. Can we get past that? Does it have to be about age with dinosaurs? Or can it just be about good looks and scaly skin? You know what I mean?
True. Do you remember that Whoopi Goldberg movie from the 90s where she teams up with a dinosaur? They're cops.
No.
Yeah. There was also another great dinosaur movie from the late 80s, early 90s called Tammy and the T-Rex. And it stars none other than a very young Paul Walker, Patrick.
Oh, may his sweet soul rest in peace. Theodore Rex, starring Whoopi Goldberg. The world's toughest cop is getting a brand new partner, and he's a real blast from the past. Wow. Who plays Theodore Rex is my question.
I want to say John Goodman, but that's not right.
Right. Voice cast George Newbern as Theodore Rex. I don't know George by name.
Yeah, I don't either, which is sad.
But man, yeah, there isn't a single other name on this list that I recognize. But I want to give a shout out, Kevin Carlson as Ankylosaurus Dad, and we know how I feel about the Ankylosaur.
You do really like an Ankylosaur. All right, so George Newbern. Guess what? He does the voice of Superman in Multiverses. So synergy.
How about that? Synergy. What a natural segue from our personal friend George Newbern to talk about some video games, because this is the Spotlight Game podcast where each and every week we're going to talk about the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. You can get it by subscribing to our YouTube channel by going to youtube.com and searching Spotlight Games, because we still don't have a URL that we can edit yet. But we can if you follow us, and we have enough followers. If you don't want to follow us on YouTube and you don't want to watch it on YouTube, you can get it in your ears as a podcast by searching for Spotlight Games in your favorite podcast app. And hey, while you're there, give us a rating, give us a review. And hey, if you want to be on the show live, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod, you can be in the chat, be part of the conversation. So follow us there, notified when we're going live, so you can come in here and call me names. Nice names, though, like handsome. We have a new episode out of STC Save Trash Cinema Podcast. I believe this week is a mini-sode. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kamen.
It's true. So this is mini-sode 5. We took a break from our normal runs, mainly to give Patrick a little bit of a breather, also for me to get a breather.
That was 5. That's episode 5.
Oh, I thought you were trying to tell me to shut the fuck up.
No. That would have been
fair.
That would have been more.
So basically, we did a mini-sode. It's a short format where we just kind of cover either modern grindhouse films or films that you probably never heard half the shit we've done at STC, but we've thrown in some foreign films before, like foreign trash films. This week though, we did the modern grindhouse masterpiece, X, coming out of A24. So really interesting episode, really cool movie. I think we had a great time doing it. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. You'll just hear us do like a very in-depth review. More so, less spoiler than a normal episode, but It should prime you. If you have any reservations about seeing X, you'll hear us banter about it and give our glowing reviews. So check it out. It's a good time.
Ooh, glowing review of the masterpiece X, or as Apple would call it, 10. Those fuckers at Apple, I tell you what. Why don't we jump into the show, Kamen? What do you say to that?
I think we should.
Kamen, last week, for those of our listeners that are weekly, they're here every week, listening, watching, playing, and loving. They got an earful from you last week about Saints Row. I assume you've been playing more of Saints Row.
I have.
Are you a part of the Saints Row, the titular Saints Row?
I have recreated the Saints Row.
Okay. You've created the row.
I now have a crew, which last episode I didn't have a crew yet. I had some friends, but I didn't have like an actual gang. I do now. Yeah, I mean, my opinion really hasn't changed much going from last week to this week. If there is really anything, like one thing I have noticed that's kind of getting to me. Not getting to me in like a really bad way, but like the missions feel very short. And there's so many really fun and interesting ideas that they do with some of these missions that are just like really cool that I want them to last much longer. But I don't know if that's really a dig per se, or if it's more of just like, just really kind of enjoy, I kind of enjoy the world, and I enjoy some of these bombastic things. I kind of wish they just went on a little bit longer.
Sure.
But ultimately, I think that the more the game goes, the funnier it's getting, and the more outlandish it's getting. Like I've got a hoverboard.
Ooh.
I've got a football that you throw it and it sticks to people, and then it'll launch them in the air and explode them like fireworks.
Ooh, mama.
It's just really fucking weird. Like it's such an interesting game. And it's much smaller of an experience, I think, than you would imagine. Like we're so custom and used to like maps being so fucking huge, the
size of my ass.
Yeah. Yeah, especially, yeah. So like you go to a game like Valhalla, for instance. Oof. It's just the map is massive.
Yeah.
And like if I want to get to point A to point B, I don't want to have to fucking ride my horse or like fast travel all the time. Like I want to I want to drive and have fun because the driving's fun. So the world being smaller, because it is small, respectively. But the world is also full of stuff. Like there's little things to do everywhere you go, and I'm having a great time playing it. I still think that the reviews were overly critical. I think right now what I would say is, just because I know what's going to happen in the next couple weeks, my thing would say if you're on the fence and you want to get the game, like I'm not going to tell you not to, but it might be worth giving it a couple weeks if you're playing something else. Mainly because there's a really good chance this game will be $40 in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, and it'll probably be $20 in like 9 months.
Yeah, and so I think $40 is a perfect price point for a game like this. Like, I do think the game's a little more expensive than it should have been at launch.
Like, is it 70 or 60?
It's 60. But still, even then, like I think like $39.99 or $49.99 is a little bit better. But yeah, I just think it's a little bit overpriced for what you get.
Sure.
But if you get into it, like I think you'll be surprised at like how much fun you can have in the world.
Okay.
And so I'm putting a recommend on it with the caveat that, or the asterisks that might want to, if you're already consuming content right now and you're already playing a game that you're really into, like maybe don't pick it up yet. Maybe give it a couple weeks. But I do think that if you enjoyed Saints Row games in the past, or you're looking for something that's just really fucking stupid, like just stupid. Like there's a line in the game where the guy's like, they're about to rob a train. And he's like, the person says that he's like, I don't know what the fuck you just said, but that's my kind of stupid. And I'm like, yeah, this is what this game is. It's my kind of stupid. So I do think like there is a lot of fun to be had here. Maybe just not at the price point that it is currently. Sure. Or maybe not with the bugs I haven't been game breaking, but like I can maybe see some people being like turned off by like some of the goofier, ludicrous bugs where like you hit like a fire hydrant and it launches your car 50 feet in the air.
That
Fucking hilarious to me. That is
fun.
so much. But I can see some people be like, no.
I guess if it's not your kind of stupid, the bugs probably carry a much heavier weight. I bet.
Yeah,
for sure.
Indeed.
I've been playing. I rolled credits on a little game called Demon's Column. You ever heard of this?
Oh, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's the quintessential opposite of Saints Row. Demon's Column.
Wow.
See what I did there? No, I rolled credits.
God damn it! I walked in that joke, didn't I? I walked in that fucking joke, Patrick.
I wouldn't say you walked into it. I would say I forced you into it.
I'm better than this.
Into that. It wasn't even a joke. It was just it was terrible. I just finished Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Holy shit!
The base game, not the. I haven't done Yuffie's Revenge or whatever.
Intragrade.
Yeah. I haven't got Yuffie's little DLC thing. I'll probably do that because right now I'm kind of in between games because I've decided, looking ahead at what's coming out, I have decided I am going to get Last of Us on Friday when it comes out.
Oh, okay.
So I'll talk about that next week. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake. I think objectively it is a very good video game. I think objectively it is beautiful. The combat is like really, really fun. I just feel like either one of two things. Either I'm an idiot, which likely, or since I didn't play the original, it just like didn't hit for me as much. Like I had fun, but I felt like I was going through the motions for a lot of the video game. And when I rolled credits, I had about 48 hours on the clock. I would be willing to bet I actually play the game for like 38, 39 hours. And 7 of those hours was me just on my phone with the game, like in still like Cloud just chilling. Because I would just find myself getting so distracted while playing. And I think that's just because I didn't have that connection to the original game. And I think if I had that, like, as an example, I have like a really light spoiler. Like, it's not even like a story beat. I guess technically it is a story beat, but it's not like anything major. I'm in the climactic battle of this game. And did you play Remake? You didn't play Remake.
I played like the first 5 hours.
Okay. I'm in the climactic battle. And, you know, this whole game, it's been me as Cloud, and I've been with Tifa, Aerith, and Barrett.
Sure.
We're beating the bad guys, and then it cuts to this dude with black spiky hair that I've never seen in the entire game. And there's this cutscene with him like fighting a bunch of bad guys, and he says something like, "I'm on my way, Cloud," or something. And I'm like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Coming to find out, it's this guy named Zach.
Motherfucking Zach.
Which I think, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves, I think Zach is connected to this new Final Fantasy game that's coming out.
Crisis Core,
like the remake of Crisis Core. But like, as someone who didn't play either of those games, I've been playing this game for 45 hours, and then all of a sudden there's this like extensive cutscene with a guy named Zach that I've never seen or know. And I'm just like, what is happening? And so I don't know. I almost feel like maybe before, because I think the game is fun and it's really well made. Like you can tell the budget that they put into this game is astronomical. So I'm like, I want to be getting a better experience. I'm almost like, should I just go back and play the original before the next ones so that like I have that like connection to these characters? Because right now, nearly 50 hours with these characters, and like I just kind of don't care about them. And I don't necessarily think that's entirely on the game. I think it's partially on the game, but I think it's mostly because I think the game kind of expected you to have the past knowledge of the original when going into it, even though they still present it in a way in which you don't necessarily have to have it. Yeah. But I think it didn't serve me having not played the original, I think. But yeah, still a fun game.
That is interesting because you bring up a good point about like how you approach like a movie or a video game or a piece of media like that. So like if you're remaking something, more often than not, a lot of times they're going to include Easter eggs, little callbacks to the original. But this is like I guess this is a reboot more than like a remake because it is split up to, it's going to be 3 games now.
Yep.
So like, how do you do that where you can bring in a new audience where some of those jokes or some of those moments, like for someone who probably played Final Fantasy VII, like the original, and has fond memories of it, and then goes and plays this now, and Zach shows up, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is old Zach! bro, it's Zach. Everybody's got cool names, not this guy.
Not this
He's a
fucking
normal
guy.
bro.
This guy's just Zach.
Just fucking Zach. And so, like, for those people, they're like, hell yeah, like this is great. But someone who has never played a Final Fantasy VII before, or Crisis Core, and Zach shows up, and you're like, who's this fucking loser with a normal name?
Literally, why is there a man from the street of America, the real country, in this game named Zach?
Why is this dirt bike riding motherfucker showing up now, and why is his name Zach? Yeah,
and why
I can
does
see
he
how
have the
that
same sword as Cloud? Like, I thought Cloud's sword was special, and that's why he had it, but maybe not. But yeah, I kept thinking of another remake / reboot, Resident Evil 2. And that is a game that I didn't play the original either. I never played RE2. I played the original RE Resident Evil. I played Resident Evil 4 and then like 5, 6, 7. Like I skipped 2 and 3 because I just didn't have PlayStations. And they remade Resident Evil on GameCube, which we'll be talking about later. And that is an example of something where I didn't know. Well, actually, maybe that's not entirely the same because I did know Leon from Resident Evil 4. So maybe that's a little different. And I knew Claire from other Resident Evil. So maybe it's not a one-to-one comparison. But regardless, I felt like that was a game I didn't know anything about other than a couple characters. And it worked for me. Like they presented the story to me in such a clear way. And I guess Zombies is simpler than a JRPG in a fantastic setting. And like, I don't know. But
I mean,
I don't know. It's just weird.
A lot of baggage with it. Yeah, that is very interesting now that you bring it up, because I never wouldn't have thought personally to like think of it like that. But now that you have said that, like, that is, I think you bring a valid point forward.
Hey, thanks. You know, honestly, one of my main goals with this podcast is to have somebody who hasn't thought of something, and then I say something, and then they think of it in an entirely new way. That's my whole goal here.
I like that. So, well, you're doing a great job. You did a great job.
Thank you. Honestly, hey, can we, off the record for a second? Can I just say thank you?
Yeah, you're welcome. Off the record.
Yeah, off the record. Yeah, cutting that for sure.
Yeah, we gotta leave that out.
Well, that's the end of our show.
Shit. All right, we're done, guys.
All right, that was great.
Saints Row now.
Yeah.
I'll see you guys next week.
No, actually, I did want to ask you. The reason I paused like a really long time, I wanted to. Do you know what you're playing next after Saints Row, or Saints Row Your Life for a minute?
That's a good question. Albert Wesker is about to drop today for Dead by Daylight.
Oh, cool.
And so we have a plan later after we're done recording. I'm going to be jumping in and playing some DBD. Hopefully getting in on that Wesker action. No, I don't know. That's a good question. Like, I definitely think Saints Row is going to be the game I play probably for the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
Until I beat it. Whether or not I go back and platinum it, I haven't really looked too much into the platinum. I'm a little worried because the game is pretty fucking buggy.
Sure.
That like there might be some trophies that are bugged out. They like.
Could be.
So, I'm not sure platinum on that. However, if it seems like it's doable, I don't see any issue with me knocking the plat out for this. With that being said, though, honestly, like there's really nothing I think coming out until November that I'm like really jazzed up for.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, they could play The Last of Us again, but like if I'm like talking about like a big experience, probably November for God of War.
Yeah.
Or sorry, not God of War. Sonic Frontiers.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Nailed it.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I don't know. What do you have on the docket for September
after The Last of Us for September? I think that might be because like Splatoon 3 is coming out, but I don't think I tried playing the little trial, the little online beta they had this weekend, and it just like wouldn't work for me for some reason. Like I was a Splatfest. I was within the time frame that they told me to be on for the United States. And it was like, Splatfest isn't live. And I'm like, well, your Twitter says it is. So I don't know what to tell you. But after that, I know in October, we got Sparks of Hope, the Mario plus Rabbids game. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that there's any other games coming out in September that are really jumping to me. I'm pulling up the Game Informer calendar.
I think the big loss that got bumped back was High on Life getting bumped.
Yep.
From October to December. Kind of really dampens.
Yes, there is one. Middle of September. Bear and Breakfast actually was announced today to come to Switch. So I definitely want to play that.
Shit.
Yeah, that was what we're going to cover that at the end of the show. But spoilers, it's coming out now, or it's on our show now. And then Return to Monkey Island is September 17th, which like that I've never played them, so like that doesn't jazz me up. But
never really hit. I liked Grim Fandango, but like those kind of games just don't really hit for me.
Game for you that I think you forgot is coming out September, Metal Hellsinger.
Oh fuck yes. Okay, yeah.
September 15th.
All right. So
then we're only a couple weeks away from that.
Yeah, that'll definitely be one I want to pick up. Yeah. With the wedding and everything being literally right around the corner, honestly, like I'm completely content with having a dumb, mindless fun with Saints Row until after the wedding.
Yeah.
Like if I can stretch it until then, like totally content with doing that, just so I'm not like having to burn more brain cells than I currently have available for other things.
Yeah, I think, depending on how long I'm with The Last of Us, I was actually yesterday, as I was deciding to finish Final Fantasy VII, I was looking through my PlayStation, all the games I have downloaded, and I made a little list. I made a list of like 5 or 6 games. I was like, I still haven't played these and I need to. Elden Ring being one of them. But you know what? Here's the thing. I'm going to have you pick the next game I'm going to play from this little list.
Do that.
Oh, I sure do. Tacoma is on there. That's a game made by the folks who made Gone Home.
So Elden Ring, Tacoma,
Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, because I never finished it.
Okay.
Below, do you remember the game Below? It launched on the Xbox One, and then it's like a survival like type game, but it's like a minimalistic looking thing. So we can knock that one off the list. Kena Bridge of Spirits, because I never finished that. And Ghostwire Tokyo.
Ooh, I would love to hear did you play Ghostwire Tokyo?
So Ghostwire Tokyo came out a couple months ago.
Yes.
I want to say it was June or July. And I downloaded it because I was like sick that weekend, and I was like, I want to play something that's new. And I was like, I just got paid yesterday. Let's buy Ghostwire Tokyo. And like, I don't remember what happened, but I never played it. Like, which sounds incredibly privileged of me to just be like, I'm going to buy a game and literally not even open it. But I just like went to sleep because I was sick or something. I don't know. I'm
torn because I'm like, I would love to hear your input on Ghostwire Tokyo, because I feel like that'd be a really interesting game. Because I've heard it's such like, I've heard there was like really good reviews from the people that I like to look at their reviews for the game. And then I think there's a lot of people who are like, meh. And then all of a sudden it was like, no one said a fucking word.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't heard it at all in a couple months.
So I would like to hear that. However, saying that, like, I do still want to hear what your thoughts are with Elden Ring. Because it's such an interesting, I feel like Elden Ring, like we had a conversation about this was like last week. And I was like trying to explain, I'm like, look, like Elden Ring is difficult. It's a hard game. However, I don't think it's nearly as hard as a lot of people think it is.
Sure.
Like it's such a weird, because I will say, I think by the end of the game is much, much, much easier than the beginning of the game.
Okay. That gives me hope, because my experience with the beginning, which I've mentioned a couple times on the show, I felt like a lost little lamb, and I was like, I don't know what to do, and everywhere I turn, I get murdered.
I think the big thing here is you need to approach it from the perspective of like, how much time do I have?
Like Patrick, how much time does Patrick have?
Yeah, because it took me I think it was like 95 hours to platinum the game. And sure, obviously you don't have to platinum the game, but like I would say if you were going to do it, the game probably, if you're not like a speedrunner or like just real fucking good at this game, like it'll probably take anywhere from 65 to 70 hours, I would guess.
Okay.
Would be, and that is if you're trying to do like, if you wanted to see everything and fight everything. The reason I say that it gets longer is there are optional areas you don't have to touch at all, but because I was going
once I'm in it though, I'm gonna want to.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I would probably I would say your probably safe bet is between 75 and 80 hours. Most likely is going to be. So if you don't have that much time, I would probably say just don't touch it.
That's a really good point though, because once we hit October, it's kind of full steam ahead until like December in terms of new games, things like Pokemon, things like God of War, things like Sonic Frontiers, Game of the Year. And I have a bit of a lull right now, and I want to play Elden Ring before the end of the year so that I can have like an actual thing to say about like when we have our game of the year, which we never actually had an official game of the year last year. So I think this might be the time that I jump into Elden Ring.
I think I think that's a perfect time then, and you get a little bit of a dead space. Also, you can play Bear and Breakfast on your Switch.
Yeah.
So
while we're watching TV,
yeah, exactly.
I'll be the bear with the breakfast. Yeah,
exactly. So I think you can do that.
I think I can do it.
That's good.
All right, I'll report back next week on whether or not I'm still myself or if I'm a husk of a human because I've been beat to shit by Elden Ring. And hey, maybe in the near future, Kamen, we're going to be able to play some PlayStation games on mobile. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
Yeah.
Herman Holst, head of PlayStation Studios, they did a little blog post yesterday on the PlayStation blog announcing that PlayStation has acquired another studio. They're called Savage Game Studios. This is what Herman wrote. He says, "Today we announced that we have entered into a definitive agreement to acquire Savage Game Studios, a hugely talented team of creatives with many years of experience making some of the most popular mobile games enjoyed by players around the world. They were founded a few years ago with the goal of fearlessly exploring bold new ideas. We share their tireless ambition to innovate, along with the continued drive to expand our audience and bring PlayStation to more people than ever before, making them a perfect fit to join PlayStation Studios." He goes on to say, I skipped a whole bunch because there's a bunch of stuff we didn't need. "Our mobile gaming efforts will be similarly additive, providing more ways for more people to engage with our content and striving to reach new audiences unfamiliar with PlayStation and our games. Savage Game Studios is joining a newly created PlayStation Studios mobile division, which will operate independently from our console development and focus on innovative, on-the-go experiences based on new and existing PlayStation IP. I hope you'll join me in welcoming Savage Game Studios into the fold, and that those of you who enjoy mobile gaming in addition to console or PC will look forward to what they have in store. They're already working on a new unannounced AAA mobile live service action game, which has so many buzzwords. It's too early to reveal more, but I'm so excited for when they'll be able to." So Kamen, there's a couple things I think that are worth pulling from here. Obviously, mobile. Big push toward mobile from PlayStation with this acquisition and the announcement of PlayStation Studios mobile division. But two things that jumped out to me. They're going to be focusing on innovative on-the-go experiences based on new and existing IP. So I want to start there. What are some IP that you expect to potentially see come to mobile? Also, what are your thoughts on this? I should have just started with general thoughts.
General thoughts are, I don't give a flying fuck. Okay. I'm not much of a mobile guy. Yeah. I don't really play mobile games often. Yeah. I know there's a huge market for it. I suppose there's a huge market for it. I don't know. That's a good question. Is there still a huge market for mobile games?
There is.
Okay, then there you go. There's a huge market for it. So I suppose if they're dipping their toes in and games as a service, they're gonna make money through microtransactions and gotcha style shit. If I had to make a guess, just off the top of my head, I think Gran Turismo, like a driving game or like Drive Club, something like that. Who did they have Drive? Wasn't Drive Club, was it? Was it Drive Club that was the PlayStation exclusive?
And then I think that studio died or that was the same studio that did like Gran Turismo, and now they're just doing Gran Turismo or something. I'll look into it while you keep going.
But I think like a racing game on mobile is always a safe bet. So I could very well see like Gran Turismo coming. It might not be as racing sim as it is like arcadey. So I think like Drive Club or whatever the fuck that game was called would probably be better than Gran Turismo. But I definitely think something like that. There's always a good chance that you end up with like a weird ass game. There was a game that came out. I want to say it was the PlayStation 2. The name of the game is escaping me, but it threw in like Ratchet and Clank. God damn. Sly Cooper, Jack and Daxter, but it was like a shooter.
Huh.
Do you remember this game?
Were you a human?
No, you got to play as like some of those characters in like it was like an arena.
Oh, it had those characters in it.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of it, but like I could see something like that where you're bringing in like some PlayStation mascots into a game that's kind of like gotcha, where like the gotcha part is like skins and shit. I could definitely see something like that. I don't foresee there being a world where we get things like Uncharted or like The Last of Us on mobile. Like that's not. I
Yeah.
don't think that's ever gonna happen. I could be wrong. I don't think that works for them because I don't think it fits for mobile. But like, I definitely think that there's options on some things they could do. I mean, hell, they could probably port a bunch of PlayStation 2 games and just put them on mobile.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true. A la like
graphically,
Grand Theft Auto
yeah.
or like
Like I
Max
could
Payne.
see, I could definitely see like having like the Sly Cooper trilogy on mobile.
That's where I was going. My head tell like I would be cool if they didn't just bring an entire Sly Cooper game to PlayStation. You know those games that are like a console version is like Mark of the Ninja, where it's like very stealth based 2D, and you're basically just trying to get from point A to point B, and there's a bunch of obstacles in your way. Like I feel like there could be a cool like 2D Sly Cooper game on mobile, where you're just you're trying to get from point A to point B, and there's a bunch of shit in your way that you gotta figure out how to get around. And then also, I think Little Big Planet, I think is a natural fit too.
Yeah.
Whether it's like the newer Little Big Planet, Sackboy's Big Adventure, or if it's like OG Little Big Planet where you can actually create shit too. I don't know, but those are definitely some standouts in my mind. But then then it's like, so at this point, because I play some mobile games. I'm not huge on mobile, but like I can fuck with a mobile game. And then they end with they're already working on a new unannounced AAA mobile live service action game. I'm like, oh,
big old snooze fest.
Big old
over
snooze
here.
fest for me.
You know what we could get, Patrick? It would be really weird. I don't know how you could pull it off, but like a sequel or a spiritual successor to Killzone Mercenaries.
That's a great idea because that game fucking ruled
that game fucked,
on Vita.
Man.
That game fucked me sweetly and gently.
Played that game so much.
That was on it. One of the last like true multiplayer games for Patrick, where like I played that game so much on like ranked multiplayer. But yeah, interesting. Well, I'm assuming we're going to be getting a lot more news about PlayStation Mobile in the near and far future, but that's what we got for you today. Let's keep it in the realm of PlayStation and go to adaptations. Kamen, there's actually multiple stories here we're gonna go through. The first is actually something that is a little old. We didn't cover it last week. It was news technically for last week's show, but we just ran out of time. 2 movies have been announced from PlayStation Productions, the movie arm of Sony.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about it. The first one I'm pulling from Deadline. Actually, both of these are from Deadline. The first one is Days Gone. This is from Anthony D'Alessandro, I believe. Anthony D'Alessandro at Deadline. In the wake of Sony minting the start of a cinematic franchise in its big screen take of the PlayStation game Uncharted, which made close to $402 million worldwide and Kamen famously loved, we hear the movie division of its video game arm, Sony PlayStation Productions, is developing the feature rendition of Days Gone, which Outlander's Sam Heughan is circling, and Oscar-nominated scribe Sheldon Turner is adapting. The Bend Studios created a game which has sold 9 million units, is set in the Pacific Northwest after a devastating global pandemic. Close to home much. The game chronicles former motorcycle club member Deacon St. John as he fights to survive against the forces of despair and mutated predatory humans in his quest to find the long-lost, presumed dead love of his life. Presumed dead. Interesting editorial there. Heughan will play Deacon. I hear Turner's script will be a love ballad to a motorcycle movies, and the bike being Deacon's sole form of transportation, his horse in this would-be modern-day Western. And they also announced Gravity Rush, which, speaking of the Vita, this was a launch game for the Vita. PlayStation Productions and Scott Free Productions have launched development on Gravity Rush, a film based on the 2012 action-adventure video game of the same name, which Anna Mastro from Secret Society of Second Born Royals is attached to direct from a script by Emily Jerome, who wrote Panopticon, 2 movies I'm not aware of. The open-world PlayStation Vita game developed by Japan Studios Project Siren and published worldwide by Sony Computer Entertainment has players controlling Kat, an amnesiac with the ability to manipulate gravity, who uses her powers to defend the floating community of Hexville from gravity storms and the mysterious race of monsters known as the Nevi. So, well, let's stop there. Days Gone, Gravity Rush. What are your thoughts on those two specific IP being brought to the big screen? Because for me, one of them is kind of a head scratcher, and the other one is just interesting. But what are you thinking?
Okay, so I'm going to start with Days Gone.
Yep.
First and foremost, I want to go and clear the air around Sheldon Turner.
Okay, I don't know Sheldon.
Now, Sheldon Turner was nominated for an Academy Award for a script for Up in the Air.
Oh, okay.
He also did the story for X-Men First Class.
Okay.
The Longest Yard. And he did the screenplay for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning.
Well, how do you feel about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning?
It's the worst. No, I was gonna say it's the worst. It's not the worst, but it was not good. Look, I mean,
X-Men First Class is pretty good though.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I don't. It just is always one of those things where like when you, I mean, I guess he has a horror credit behind his name.
Yeah,
but it's always one of those where it always really fucks with me when you get screenplays or you get like writers or you get like when we talked about like and who knows, I think we'll get to it. Yeah, we'll get to it a bit. But I'm just going to set the precedence that it's always perturbs me when you get someone who's not known for horror who then does a horror film.
Do you want me just to bring in the next story? But let's
do it all together. We'll just do it all together.
We'll just do it all together. So we got some news. I don't know that we've actually really talked about this on the show, but BioShock, one of the most celebrated games of all time, there's been movie talks about this game since like 2008. Pulling from Toussaint Egan at Polygon. Let's hope I pronounced that correctly. If I didn't, I apologize. Toussaint writes, Netflix announced on Thursday that Francis Lawrence, known for his work on the Hunger Games series and 2005's I Am Legend, will be directing an adaptation of 2007's BioShock. Logan and Blade Runner 2049 screenwriter Michael Green is also attached to pen the film's script. BioShock hardly needs an introduction. Developed in 2007 by Irrational Games, briefly under the name 2K Boston, and 2K Australia, the first-person sci-fi horror shooter placed players in the role of Jack, a man who discovers the city of Rapture, a dystopian Art Deco metropolis at the bottom of the sea, inspired by the objectivist writings of Ayn Rand, after surviving a disastrous plane crash over the Atlantic Ocean. There, Jack must contend with the genetically altered denizens of the dying city as he searches for a way home. Kamen, I pass it back to you.
Okay, so to my original point. This gives me worry and pause for both of these movies for this big issue, right? Is we have people who aren't known for writing something that should be scary. And they're the ones who are going to try to make it spooky. And it's like, I think that's the thing is like with horror, I'm not saying that you can't go from writing normal stuff. Like look at Cormac McCarthy, for instance. Like, infamously No Country for Old Men, Blood Meridian, and then he did The Road, which is very much a horror book. So I'm not saying it's impossible to do, but at the same time, like you have more time in a novel to flesh out everything else, and then you can sprinkle in your little horror bits here and there. How are they going to do that? To me, it seems like, okay, it gives me pause and it gives me a little bit of like a setback being like, I'm a little bit nervous because Days Gone very much is a horror game. It is a horror game. BioShock, on the other hand, I consider it a horror game. I consider BioShock a horror game. And so I don't know, man, I want to hope that there's a lot here, that things are going to be good. I'm not huge on at least for Days Gone, I'm not huge on the writer director combo for that.
Okay.
Whereas I'm not huge on the director for BioShock, whereas like they have a very good screenwriter for it, and a screenwriter can do a lot with it and really set the stage, right? So I think that there's elements, at least for the BioShock one, but also with it being at Netflix, God fucking knows what that's going to be.
Their track record is very bad.
Yeah, the likelihood is it's not going to be horror at all. It's going to be like an action, and it's going to be political, which is fine because BioShock is very political, but it is still a horror game. Yeah. Now, with Gravity Rush is a complete fucking throw up. Like I think
let's pause. Let's jump to Gravity Rush in a second.
Okay.
Let's stick on Days Gone. So with Days Gone, I think the most interesting thing about Days Gone to me, other than Sam Heughan starring, because I really like him. I love Outlander. I'm a 45-year-old woman that
Sam Witwer is why not Sam
sure,
Witwer.
sure. Sam Witwer's good. I think he's a great actor too, but I understand for the sake of Hollywood, they're bringing in someone who very much is on the up and up right now. Like Sam Heughan, he's had a few like action movies where he's the main guy. Like he's kind of being put in that role of blockbuster star. Like he's on his way to being there, and I think this is probably going to be a big stepping stone for that, assuming it actually happens and this isn't just another movie that goes to die. But what's really interesting to me about this is that they are now going to be putting millions of dollars into Days Gone, a franchise that PlayStation famously doesn't like, has openly said we are not continuing those games because the first one didn't perform how we wanted it to. So I don't know, maybe because I loved Days Gone. I thought similar to how you feel about Saints Row. I thought when that game came out, I didn't play it when it came out. I played it several months later, but that movie was eviscerated when it came out by reviews. And when I played it several months later, all the bugs were fixed. And I was like, this game is astounding. Great story, great acting, really fun gameplay. It's a tad long. It may be way too long, but like, I didn't understand how that game's Metacritic was like a 60. I thought it should have been in the 80s easily, but it didn't sell well because the bugs were so bad. And so PlayStation killed it. And so I don't know, maybe this is a way for Days Gone to potentially come back, but it's like, it's such a weird move for me for them to be like, this franchise is dead, but let's make a movie out of it. Like, so that's weird, right?
I mean, part of me wonders if this is like a pulse check to be like, hey, the first game didn't perform how it still sold very well.
That's true.
It just didn't perform critically well in terms of review scores, but it still sold very well. So maybe this is a pulse check to be like, hey, like if this is successful, like maybe there's a chance this revives Days Gone. I would have thought that like the better move would be announce a Days Gone 2 alongside the movie.
Sure.
And then like have them both, be coming out some similar times to like hype each other up.
Yeah.
But each other up. But I don't know, man. Sony makes really weird, especially with their movies. They're very disconnected in terms of like their movie side and their video game side are like two completely different universes that just I don't understand. Because in terms of like how Sony does with video games, they're very good about being like on the nose, like knowing what's next.
Oh,
and
for
like
sure.
Having things in place and releasing AAA blockbusters constantly and like really hyping up and knowing where that is. But the movie side's like, we're going to make a Morbius movie. And you're like, God damn it.
Yeah. And we're going to release it again.
Yeah. Just stupid as shit.
The other weird thing to me about both of these, about both Days Gone and BioShock, is video games historically have still to this day never adapted a story-driven game successfully, both critically and commercially. Uncharted is the closest for a story-driven game because it was a huge commercial success and the reviews were less than favorable. But like Mortal Kombat, I think it was a success, but they have free reign to make their own story because Mortal Kombat has little to no story. Sonic 1, Sonic 2, huge successes. Sonic's story is fucking paper thin. So, but then you look at like Tomb Raider, you look at Uncharted, you look at like Assassin's Creed, these games that story is first for those games. None of them have been successful. So BioShock, Days Gone, two very story driven, especially BioShock. Like the heart of BioShock is its story and its world. I'm like, why aren't these being made as shows? Because you look at The Last of Us that we talked about last week, and it's like, that looks like it's finally hitting it. And it's finally figured out that maybe the way to do this is with a TV show when it's a story-driven thing. So I'm also worried that like Days Gone, a 40+ hour video game, now being put into 2.5 hours. It's like,
there is a catch here that I don't think we're thinking about. But if you look at it in the reverse way, right? Days Gone, you just pull someone off the street, or you take like 100 people who call themselves gamers, right? and you're like, tell me the story of BioShock. Tell me the story of Uncharted, Tomb Raider. Now tell me the story of Days Gone. They're not going to know the story of Days Gone.
Sure.
But that helps them when you make a movie because you don't have to tell the same story. Whereas like Uncharted, BioShock, Tomb Raider, like you have to try to like bring in a lot of those elements. Maybe not something like Tomb Raider, but like, and maybe to a degree, not even Uncharted, but like the issue with those is, especially with with Uncharted, is like it's a very emotional game. It's all about the connection with the characters.
Right.
It's a lot harder. It's a lot easier to fuck that up than I think it is to take something that people really don't have any fond memories of and just be like, we're going to recreate this from scratch.
Sure.
Be like, hey, this is the world you're going to get. And then the question comes like, who fucking needs this? Because there's good zombie movies.
Yeah, that's a really good
this version of that.
That's a really interesting point, and it's interesting that you say that because it actually makes me think with BioShock specifically that I think will actually hurt it because BioShock is so fucking cool. But the one thing about BioShock is that its protagonist is fucking so like there's the protagonist is nothing. The protagonist is a viewpoint, and so now you are now being tasked with adapting a video game that straddles so many genres and is so iconic, like one of the most iconic video games of the last 20 years, whose protagonist is nothing. And it's like, so I almost think that they would be better off adapting BioShock and just using the world of Rapture and telling a completely new story.
Yeah.
And I hope they do that, but I don't know that they will, like, because I don't know, maybe they will, but I worry that with something like Days Gone, where the story is so clear, I feel like it would be easier to adapt than BioShock, where the protagonist doesn't even have a single line.
Picture this.
Picturing it.
Protagonist from BioShock. He's standing there. He picks up little sister.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Picks her up. Her eyes get real big, even bigger than they normally are. And he goes, "It's right behind me, isn't it?" Boom, here comes Big Daddy.
Yep.
Right? Like
played by
Chris Pratt. Sorry. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Correct.
And then Mark Wahlberg plays the protagonist.
Yep.
Nailed it. We just cast the movie, guys.
We did it.
But that's the thing is like that's Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
The producer's going to be like, "This is perfect." How do you write that? Like, how do you write a protagonist who literally says nothing,
not a single word the whole game?
And the big hook is the twist on who he actually is or who he actually isn't.
Right, and the way they achieve that is that you are a silent protagonist.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. So I don't know. That's why that one is of these I'm the most worried about. But so to bring in Gravity Rush though, just for a little bit, because I think that's the most irrelevant of all of these anyway. But that one is just like a head scratcher. Like, what is the angle here? Like, are they going to go like a Studio Ghibli type route? And
that would be,
I hope,
perfect.
But it's like, yeah, that is a game of, I think every single video game adaptation that has been announced to date across all companies, I think Gravity Rush is the most irrelevant of all of them. Like it didn't catch on originally, even though the first game ruled. I never played the second game, but I loved the first game on Vita. And it's like, who's the audience for that one? So I'm interested to see where that goes. But
yeah, that's gonna be an interesting one. Honestly, I think the best way to do that one is like an animated film and just make it visually stunning.
Hopefully, yeah.
Like Paprika, something really cool anime style would be really awesome for that. But outside of that, I don't know how this is going to work. And the budget is going to be fucking massive if you're going to do it.
Hopefully. Well, I tell you someone who doesn't have much of a budget anymore, and that's Netflix's Resident Evil, because it has been canceled. I'm pulling again from Deadline. This is Nelly Andriva. Nelly writes, Netflix has opted not to order a second season of Resident Evil, its action horror series loosely based on the popular video game franchise. The news, which comes a month and a half after the series' July 14th release, is not entirely surprising, as the drama did not have a particularly strong showing on Netflix's top 10, and cost versus viewing is the streamer's leading renewal criterion. Running partly in the shadow of mega genre hit Stranger Things, which is released within the same time frame, Resident Evil debuted at number 2 with an okay 72.7 million hours viewed for its opening weekend, but it did not deliver the big week 2 bump one would like to see for a new series as word of mouth spreads, raking in 73.3 million hours viewed in its second week for a number 3 finish before dropping precipitously and falling out of the top 10 after only 3 weeks. The latest Resident Evil incarnation also logged an underwhelming 55% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 27% audience score. I never got around to watching this one, and I'm bummed I didn't now, because I was excited for this. I kept saying to Rose, like, oh yeah, we keep saying we're going to watch Resident Evil. We need to watch Resident Evil. Now, I don't know that we will.
I finished it. What I can say is it does end in a way that which it sets up for additional seasons.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cliffhangers and a lot of questions left unanswered. It's a bummer we're not going to get those, but I can kind of partly, I don't understand Netflix because, one, why did you drop it literally immediately after Stranger Things came out?
Right.
Like you burned out people with like, each episode is like an hour and 45 minutes. Afterwards, they're going to start doing other shit. That's just how it works. So you send it out to die. Then you're like, oh, well, why didn't it work? Like, it's like the fucking meme of putting the stick in the bicycle wheel. Like, yes, that makes sense why it failed. It also makes sense why it failed is because it's very different than what you would expect. And honestly, I think that if it just wasn't called Resident Evil, it might have potential of coming back for a second season.
Really interesting.
And I think that's the issues, right? Like we just talked about, is that you've got these properties that could succeed if given a long enough format to be able to create the world, right? With Resident Evil, they were given the opportunity, but instead of following any sort of guideline, they were like, let's just take names of characters and Umbrella as a company and then just do something wildly different. And it's like, how does that work? Does this work better? Does this work worse? And, you know, with people like, you're going to, presumably the name Resident Evil is going to draw in fans of the show. However, the name also could push away people who are like, well, I don't want to get into this video game thing because I know nothing about the video game.
Sure.
But it's so different from the game that it's offending the people who are diehards of the game, but you're still not getting that other audience that would be like, oh, well, I don't need to know anything about the games to be able to watch this. So you created a monster of your own making that wasn't going to succeed at all. And you can kind of tell from the very first episode that like a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of passion went into it.
Yeah.
But it's going to fail. And it's a bummer that it did, but honestly, and yes, I was, as you have written in the doc, the question of, was I hoping for a second season? Yes, I was.
A goddamn shame.
A goddamn shame. But, well, you know, as we've just covered, apparently there's a treasure trove of bullshit that you can turn into a movie and or TV show and just throw ample amounts of money at. Or you can be like WB, spend $125 million on a movie and then immediately burn it in front of the IRS agents who are currently about to raid your compound.
Correct. It's so interesting with Resident Evil because when I first saw that it was announced, my gut was, wait, again? We're already back to Resident Evil? And like, I love Resident Evil. Honestly, one of my favorite franchises. Can't wait for Resident Evil 4 in the spring of next year, the remake. But there have just been so many movies. But then on the other side of the coin, though, I was like, but this is a TV show. And I'm a big TV boy. So I was hoping that this would deliver, even though we just got a Resident Evil movie, last year, right?
Yes.
But doesn't matter anymore because it's dead. You know what else is dead, Kamen? The Nintendo GameCube. But we're talking about it.
Hell yeah, we are.
So we've done this on the show before. We've done a version of this on the show before where we bring our own top 5 and make our own top 10 together. But I want to do something a little different. I want to pull a list of the top 10 best GameCube games according to IGN. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through this list and see how it shakes, whether we agree with it, if there are games that we think are missing, if there are games that are on this list that we think are just total dog shit. Let's talk about it. And if we have a few people in the audience, if anyone wants to chime in, feel free to. But Kamen, are the rules clear?
Believe so.
All right. Let's jump right in. So the number 10, actually, before I jump in, Do you want to? I only know the number 10 game that I'm looking at right now. Do you want to guess what we think is going to be on this list?
Okay, I'm not gonna put. I'm not looking at the list. All right, I'm gonna go with Double Dash.
Okay.
Mario Tennis.
Okay.
Metroid Prime easily. Wind Waker. Resident Evil 4. Was Twilight Princess? Did it originally come
it was
GameCube?
double released. It was released on the GameCube and the Wii at the same time.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I thought. I knew one of them was. I would probably say Twilight Princess probably makes it. Super Mario Sunshine, 100%.
100% makes it. Has to.
God, I think that's. If I'm thinking like the big games,
yeah,
like those are the ones that I think of when I think of like the GameCubes. Mario Strikers,
Mario Strikers, yeah, that's one that I think of. I also think of Animal Crossing, the OG
Oh
Animal Crossing.
fuck! How did I
That's
forget
gotta
about
be on
Animal
there.
Crossing? Yeah,
I also
absolutely.
think of Luigi's Mansion.
Ooh, good call.
I also think of Metal Gear Twin Snakes, the
Oh,
remake of Metal
See,
Gear
I
Solid
always,
1.
I always think of Twin Snakes because it came out on the PlayStation 2 as
Oh,
well.
right.
I always think of it as a PlayStation game, but I always forget that it did indeed come.
I also think of SSX. No, I'm sorry, Eternal Darkness.
Ooh, yeah.
So those are a few.
I have a feeling that would not make it in a top 10 list though.
Maybe
Unfortunately, though, crazy good game.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, let's do this. Let's share the screen for our video viewers. Chrome tab, top 10. No, yeah. And a big old fat ad right in the middle there. Let's see. Oh, so this is actually top 25, but I'm just doing the top 10. Number 10, Mario Kart Double Dash.
Okay.
Which I think
interesting. It's that low.
Interesting that it's that low. I do feel like when Mario Kart Double Dash came out, it wasn't as well received as other as Mario Kart 64, but I loved it. I thought it was fucking
honestly
genius.
I think Double Dash, to me, Double Dash was the best Mario Kart game outside, like looking back, outside of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on Switch. And then I would probably go with Mario Kart DS as number 3. But dude, Mario Kart Double Dash was fucking awesome.
It's so good. And it has my favorite track, Baby Park, which is just chaos. I just love how chaotic that track is.
Wild.
So yeah, number 10, Mario Kart Double Dash. Number 9, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Leader, a game I actually never played.
Yeah, me either.
So this is a miss for me.
Interesting. Interesting that's above Mario Kart on a
I know, right? That's kind of shocking. Number 8, this is we should have thought of this. Pikmin 2. Yeah. This is actually another miss for me. We never had Pikmin growing up. So my cousins had Pikmin, and I remember when I went to my cousin's house, I was like, "Ooh, I want to play Pikmin," because I keep seeing it at Hollywood Video, but we keep not renting it. And then so I guess I have played it. I played it for like 5 minutes and I was like, "What the fuck is this game?" And I bounced. I was like, "This is too overwhelming. My brain is too young."
Honestly, Pikmin, I want to love Pikmin so much, but it also just proved how dumb I am and how bad I am at strategy games. So.
Right. Yeah, I've always wanted to give Pikmin 3 Remastered a shot on Switch, but I played the demo and I was like, still, as a 30-year-old man, I'm like, this is still, I don't get it.
As someone who fucking like beat The Witness, you're like, I can't be playable.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, insane.
Number 7, Mario, shockingly low. Super Mario Sunshine.
Wow.
At number 7. But I mean, this game I do feel like gets a lot of hate, which I think is unwarranted.
Yeah,
because I think this game is great. It has one of my favorite Mario characters, Flood. But and Delfino Isle, what a setting! That little
Delfino Isle, beautiful.
Number 6, Animal Crossing, which I think
is. I think 6 is probably a good spot. 5 or 6 is a good spot for Animal Crossing. I don't think it has as. Like, I think Animal Crossing, at the time that the GameCube was released, Animal Crossing did not have the same appeal that it does today.
Oh, for sure.
There's an entire generation of people who completely fucking missed that this game even existed. I had Animal Crossing I played it on the GameCube. My cousin had a GameCube. We played it together. The Wii, played it on the Wii, had it on the DS, had it on the 3DS, got it on the Switch, played it on the iPhone.
Let's go.
I love
you are a mobile gamer, see? I never played the OG. Same cousin that had Pikmin also had Animal Crossing, but I never tried it. And at some point, I want to break out my Wii, if it still works, and borrow. I assume I would be willing to bet Katie friend of the show, Katie, has this on GameCube because she has some of my GameCube games still. But if she has it, I want to borrow it and play it at some point because I've never played the OG Animal Crossing. Number 5, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. This is another one for me that makes sense. However, I do think I
don't like
feel
it
like
at
this
number 5.
I don't like it at number 5. I feel like this should have been like number 10.
Yeah.
This, in my mind, is and always will be a Wii game, but that's my own bias.
Yeah, I played it on the Wii, and I knew that I was like, I know one of them came out, and I was like, it's definitely not Wind Waker because it got remade for the Wii U.
Yep.
But yeah, I definitely like Twilight Princess to me, honestly, like, and I've played a bunch of Zelda games. It was always one of the, I don't know, maybe Skyward Sword is the weakest Zelda game, but like, it's not much lower than Twilight Princess for me.
Twilight Princess, I liked it, but it didn't feel like a Zelda game, especially because so much of the game is in like wolf mode, which is cool, but it just felt like a totally different game. And it's like way darker than most Zeldas other than like Majora's Mask.
Yeah, Majora's Mask is a fucking nightmare.
It's fucking is dark as shit. This game is very dark, but this is a game that I've not played since it was released. So I think at some point I want to pick up the Switch port and play this again to see if my opinion has changed on it. Because I remember at the time I played it what would have been a couple years after Wind Waker, which is still my favorite of the Zelda games. So it was like such a bright, like awesome game. And then to go to this, I think just as a youngster, I was maybe like, I want more Wind Waker.
It is interesting. So I do really love Wind Waker, but also one, I really, really love Majora's Mask. I really love Majora's Mask.
Incredible game.
But honestly, if I'm going back and I'm like, Kamen, what is your favorite? I think the nostalgia of Ocarina of Time, like just always gets me. Like I really just have really fond memories of outside of the water temple.
Sure. I get that. However, confession, the first time I played Ocarina of Time, I was in college. Okay. So for whatever reason, it's one of those like big, like Super Smash Bros. We just never had a Zelda game for some reason. And so I didn't, actually the first time I played Majora's Mask was also in college. But yeah, first time I played, it was the 3DS version, which apparently I think is a great way to play.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
We did have on GameCube, there was a version there was a port of Ocarina. Actually, I'm just now remembering we did have that on GameCube. And I tried playing it, but I didn't have a walkthrough. And at that age, I was not good enough at video games to get through it. But great game. I just didn't play it as a kid, so I didn't have that same. Like by the time I played it, like Uncharted 3 was out, so I was like, great game, but like I played it in a different time. Number 4, Resident Evil 4.
A little low.
So yeah, so if Resident Evil is number 4, I think Wind Waker is probably in the top 3. I think Metroid Prime is probably in the top 3. But what else is above Resident Evil 4?
I would have put Resident Evil 4 as 2 or 3, in my opinion.
Same.
That is a good question. Let's find out.
Number 3.
Oh, fucking
Super
Christ.
Smash Bros. Melee.
Yeah,
we should have mentioned this.
I just should have saw it coming.
Right. Should have saw that coming. But since I never had Smash, this is just, I never think of it. But yeah, I know a lot of people look at Melee as the best Smash.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. This is number 3. So then I assume we're correct on the other 2. Wind Waker, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, number 2, which honestly, as I've already said, this should be number 1 to me, but
I think I know what's going to be number 1 because there's no way it's not in the top 10, and I don't agree with this list.
Same. Number 1, Metroid Prime. This might be a hot take. Maybe not for you, but this might be a hot take for the internet. I don't think Metroid Prime should be in the top 25 best GameCube games. Personally.
I disagree. I think top 10's fine, but like 9 or 10.
So this is what they say. Metroid Prime is one of the most sublime video game experiences of all time and a no-brainer choice for the top GameCube game ever created. When news first broke of a first-person 3D Metroid game, expectations were low to say the least. The previous game in the series, Super Metroid, is widely regarded as the best 16-bit game of all time. Yes. Why would Nintendo dare to mess with perfection? However, after just a few minutes of play, it became clear Nintendo didn't mess with perfection, but instead allowed it to branch off in a new direction, and the fruits it bore would become the Prime trilogy. I don't know. I've never been a Metroid guy. I've tried so hard.
I'm not like when I was in my age now, 32, like not as big on side scrollers.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I fucking loved side scrollers. And Super Metroid was like one of my favorite games on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Like I used to play that shit religiously. So maybe because I wasn't as built into the world of the GameCube, that the expectation that a first person version of Metroid was this huge, like, oh my gosh, how does this happen? I just don't, I played it and it's good, but I don't think it's better than Wind Waker.
Maybe this is one of those you had to be there at the time.
I think it has to be. And there's probably someone in the audience when they hear this is like, you guys are fucking stupid. And then we probably are.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if like I appreciate what the game is and the legacy that it had, because it's the only first person Metroid game that's been successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a Metroid Prime, is it 4 that like was announced like 15 years ago, and like we still haven't heard from it.
Still nothing. But then we got Metroid Dread, and for all intents and purposes, I haven't played it because, like I said, I'm just have kind of grown out of side scrollers. It's just not for me anymore. But like, all intents and purposes, the game apparently is one of the best Metroid games ever made.
And like, I tried so hard to get into Metroid Dread, and I just hated it. Like, I just did not think that game was fun, and I think it just that solidified for me that I'm just not a Metroid guy.
And that's totally
which is
fair.
okay.
I do like I definitely enjoyed. I the other night, I laid down in bed and I watched like a 3-hour long retrospective on the history of Metroid.
Interesting.
And it was it's like the story of everything and how Dread like weasels in and like fleshes out this whole narrative thing. Was like,
cool.
Wow. I was like, just like 4 in the morning watching it, like, man, this is so cool.
I would probably fuck with that because like the world seems cool and like the story seems cool. The gameplay itself has never spoken to me. I'll use this moment to say hi to John in the chat. He said he's late, he's here, and he's ashamed. Don't be ashamed, John. You only knew that it was 8 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday, as it always is. But hey, you have a life. I get it.
You say that, but literally every Tuesday, Sydney, when she gets home from work, she goes, Are you guys recording tonight? Like, yes, it's Tuesday. What time are you recording? 8 p.m. as always. Okay. Every time, like,
classic.
We've been doing this for how long now? Like,
it's been a couple months since we've been doing live 8 o'clock. John, going back a couple, John does agree. Melee is best Smash. I'm gonna take your word for it, John, because I don't know any better. And then come on, Wind Waker is a game that still shocks me how good it looks. I know. It's so stupid how good it looks, and like I am about to. Kamen, I haven't told you this.
Okay.
I'm about to get a Steam Deck.
Oh, look at you.
So I put down a $5 pre-order like 2 months ago, and it was like, you're going to get, no, it wasn't 2 months ago. It was like in May. And it was like, you're going to get this in like 9 months. And I was like, sure. Gives me 9 months to think about whether or not I should actually do this. And I guess their production is just like ramped up so much that now I'm expected to get it this quarter, like before the end of September. So they haven't sent me the link to like actually buy it. So I just, my credit card expired, got a new one. So let's go, baby. Credit card ready to be spent.
That's why they call you Moneybags McPatrick.
Well, credit bags McPatrick. If Rose is listening, which I know she probably is, forget anything I ever said about this, because Daddy's in trouble. But all of that to say, Wind Waker, definitely want to be bringing Wind Waker, because I never got to play the Wii U version because I never had a Wii U. And the remaster of like the prettiest game ever, My door just opened and shut.
Rose was sitting there. She was like, I hear him talking
I think
about
so.
spending
I
money
think
he
she was
doesn't
just giving
have.
me a dirty look and I didn't know. And then she slammed the door to tell me that she was looking. But it's still closed. We'll see. Maybe there's a cat at the door. But man, that just shook me. All right, Kamen.
Yes.
Do you have time for one more segment? A little surprise segment for you.
Always.
I want to do a little guessing game with you.
Okay.
So I pulled another. I was just scrolling through IGN and I came across another interesting article that got me thinking. Mm-hmm. I want you to try to guess the 10 best-selling video games of all time.
Okay.
And some things to keep in mind. Some notes up front from the IGN staff. Pack-in games are counted towards sales totals, considering most of this game were at one point bundled with a console. So that's a little bit of a hint.
Okay.
Free downloads are not counted as sales, so that excludes Fortnite, League of Legends, anything free to play.
Okay.
Due to lack of available sales data, we could not include certain games that may have earned a spot on this list. Skyrim is one such game because
that makes sense.
They've never given like official numbers. The only thing that they've said is like it sold like more than 30 million copies. They've never given like an actual number essentially for that game. And then the final piece, they reached out to Activision Blizzard trying to get sales numbers for Diablo 3, which famously was a huge selling video game, and the Call of Duty franchise as a whole, and they didn't respond. So Call of Duty, Diablo, not on the list. So that's a little hint for you there.
Okay.
So those are your caveats. Those are your pieces to help guide you. So let's see how many of these 10 you can guess to close out the show.
Number 1, Wii Sports.
Number 1 is not Wii Sports. However, Wii Sports on the list. So we're going to give you 1 point.
Okay. I know for a fact Minecraft, if Wii Sports isn't, Minecraft is probably number 1 then.
Minecraft, not number 1 on the list. A 1 more
Interesting.
point.
So then the only other game I can think of that would be number 1 would be Grand Theft Auto 5.
Grand Theft Auto 5, not number 1 on the list. So you got number 4, Wii Sports, 82.9 million. Number 3, Grand Theft Auto 5, 170 million. Number 2, Minecraft, 238 million. So there is a game that has sold more than 208 million copies in its lifetime. And it's going to be like, when you hear it, you're like, oh, duh.
But it'll probably be some shit like Tetris.
520 million copies of Tetris sold since it's been released.
So I got the
double.
So I got the top 4.
So you got the top 4.
Shit. Now this is where things get difficult. Because now we're talking like all-time sellers.
I think
I would say probably.
Go ahead.
Like I would say Mario Kart 8.
Mario Kart 8, number 6 at 55.28 million. And they count 8
the
and
doubles.
Deluxe as like one singular unit.
I would assume that would be the case. Whew, okay.
I would say of the remaining 5, I think 3 of them, I'm not going to say they're easy, but I think 3 of them you should get. 2 of them, question mark. You might not get to them.
This is tough, Patrick. I'm on the spot now. Ding, 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 ding. Super Mario World.
Super Mario World, not on the list.
Fuck.
However, Super Mario Bros, 48 million at number 8.
Interesting.
So I feel like I would have expected World over Bros as well, but I think with just how big of a phenomenon that was with the NES, I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
And actually, was that a pack-in?
It might have been. It might have actually.
Yeah, John just said it was bundled with the console. So there you go. Super Mario Bros.
Then that makes 8. Yeah, okay. Oh my gosh. So we've knocked out what, 6?
We've knocked out 6. We've knocked out Tetris, Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto 5, Wii Sports, Mario Kart 8, and Super Mario Bros. I'll say two of these. I'll start giving some hints. Two of these. Also, Super Mario Bros. Was one of the three that I was like, I think you could get these. So now it's 2 and 2. Two of these are multiplayer games. And two of these are games that are very near and dear to your heart. Those are my two hints at the moment.
Two multiplayer, two very near and dear to my heart.
And the two multiplayer games you don't give a shit about.
Shit. Then
that I know of.
Then PUBG is probably
number 5.
Potentially Fortnite, but Fortnite wasn't. It was free.
Fortnite didn't count. But number 5
there
is
was
PUBG.
A purchase version of Fortnite. I don't know if you remember that. There was.
I do.
You could, because it's still technically in beta.
That's right. That's right.
Like there was a whole game that this was based around.
That's right. And when Fortnite first launched, it was like a failure, and then they made this new mode, and it blew up, and it's now the biggest thing.
Another multiplayer game, potentially Smash Bros. Ultimate.
No, you know what? This one, I might have led you astray with the note about Activision Blizzard, because this is an Activision Blizzard game. But I guess they didn't get numbers specifically on Diablo and Call of Duty. So this other one is an Activision Blizzard game that it's just not one of those two.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1.
Ooh, I wish. No. Number 7 is Overwatch with 50 million.
Overwatch.
Yeah.
God damn it. Okay. Now Overwatch 2 is going free to play, right?
Overwatch 2 is going free to play.
Okay.
Coming out in October. So that leaves number 9 and 10. Numbers 9 and 10. Two games truly very near and dear to your heart.
Animal Crossing for the Switch.
Nope. That's probably pretty close. That's number 13 at 39.38 million. So they gave just outside the top 10. Damn. Here, I'll give you these two too. Just outside the top 10, 13 Animal Crossing New Horizons, 12 The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, 11 a shocker, Terraria.
Terrarium?
Just Terraria.
Terraria. Oh.
Who would have thought?
I was going to say this game is not near and dear to my heart, but I was like, fucking Stardew Valley.
Ooh, I bet Stardew is probably close, but Stardew is not on the list. So a couple more hints. Okay. One of them, I know for a fact, was a game of the year for you within the last several years. And another is it's one of your favorite franchises.
Well, I know for a fact it's not Bulletstorm.
Not Bulletstorm.
There's no way Uncharted.
Not Uncharted.
Made it. Damn. Oh man,
right.
I don't. Okay,
do you want to give them?
Yeah, just throw them at me. I'm gonna
number
10. Feel bad.
No, don't feel bad. I put you so hard on the spot here. Number 10, your game of the year from 2018, Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, it's sold that well.
Yep, 45.
I'm actually kind of shocked by that.
Yeah. As of August 22, their latest financial report, they reported selling 45 million copies so far. And then number 9, Gen 1 of Pokemon. So red, blue, and yellow version with 47 million. So the list from 10 to 1, Red Dead Redemption 2 with 45 million, Gen 1 of Pokemon with 47, Super Mario Bros. With 48, Overwatch with 50, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Mario Kart 8 OG, 55.28 million, PUBG with 75 million, Wii Sports with 82.9, Grand Theft Auto 5 with 170 million, Minecraft with 238, and Tetris with a whopping insane 500.
Tetris was actually bundled into the Game Boy.
That's right. And I wonder, let's see, reading this, Tetris has come across the list, blah, blah, blah. I'm seeing if this counts like all versions of Tetris. It must. Modern variations of the classics are still being released. Tetris Effect Connected brought the puzzler to the current gen. 2022 Puyo Puyo Tetris. So yeah, I think this is counting every version of Tetris, which is like a little bit of a cheat. But like if the game doesn't change, I guess.
Fair. I mean, they've released how many Call of Duty games?
Whoa.
I don't know.
425 million of the 520 million are just from mobile downloads. So it's just the app.
Okay, so that is very much a cheat.
Okay, so that's that's insane.
But even throwing it aside, I got what, like out of 10 though, I got what, 6.5 out of 10?
You got 6.5 out of 10.
Okay, I'll take
Which,
that.
honestly, if I were put on the spot, I probably would have got 2 of them. because I would have been.
I feel good about myself.
I think you should feel. I think you should feel great. Yeah. But no. So here's the thing. With Tetris, John in the chat saying it's a scam, you saying it's kind of a cheat. I don't know, because it's a paid version of the game.
Yeah, but if you got
25 million
multiple versions,
sure, but
like if you were to say like, hey, we are going to, like, if Overwatch 2, right, wasn't free to play, you wouldn't consider Overwatch 2 to be part of the Overwatch sales.
No,
but you would say something like Tetris Effect, which is very different than Tetris.
I would agree with you if 425 million weren't from the paid mobile game.
Well, then they should just say.
Then they should just say that, right? It should be that number one is Tetris with 425 million of the mobile version.
But essentially, every time you move and you have to get a U-Haul, you are paying to play Tetris.
That's true. That makes this number well over 1 billion downloads.
Exactly. That's a hill I'll die on.
Oh, you're gonna die on it. That's for sure. Well, that's our show. Let's close it out. A very short calendar update. Only like 3 things to report on. Previously mentioned Bear and Breakfast got its Switch release date. It is coming out September 15th. Xbox Game with Gold was announced for September. You're getting Gods Will Fall, Double Kick Heroes, Thrillville, and very exciting, Portal 2, which is also now on Switch. And then finally, Shovel Knight is getting a sequel. I don't know if this is like news or if this is just like an update, but on September 23rd, we're getting a Shovel Knight Dig on Steam, Switch, and Apple Arcade. So that's a pretty huge game that's coming to mobile. So check that out. And with that, that is officially the end of our show.
You know what's interesting, Patrick? They still haven't announced the September's PlayStation Plus games.
Oh, interesting. I bet we'll get that. Well, it's the 30th. Tomorrow's the 31st. So we're going to get it tomorrow. That's for sure.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Never mind. Because if it would have been the 1st, then we would have gotten them on September 1st. So that makes sense. We'll know tomorrow.
Yeah. We'll know tomorrow.
Current rumor, Sifu is currently rumored to be one of the games. So we'll see if that shakes out to be true.
I hope that shakes out to be true so that you can play it and have no excuse not to play it because it's free now.
Just like you have no excuse not to play Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Well, it is downloaded. I just didn't put it on my short list, which I do deserve a spanking for. That's our show, folks. Thank you for joining us on this ride, even if you were a little late, and there's no shame in being a little late. Thanks for coming along. Like, subscribe, share the podcast. Go to youtube.com, search Spotlight Games, give us a follow. I'm supposed to tell you to ring the bell so that you know when we post a new episode. But hey, new episodes Thursday at 8 a.m. Eastern time on both YouTube and podcast services. But if you want to be live, like John was in the chat, twitch.tv/SpotlightGamesPod. Follow us there so you know when we go live so you can be part of the conversation. New episode of Save Trash Cinema on the feed right now. Minisode of the movie X. Next week, we're coming at you with a full episode, so give that feed a follow and subscribe as well so that you know when we have new episodes of Save Trash Cinema. I have been your host, Patrick. Thank you, Kamen.
This is NPR. Thank you for listening to us. And remember,